So in this video I'm going to show you how to connect to your Amazon instance. For this to work, you have to have two things pre-installed in your system. You have to have an SSH client. If you're using a Mac or a Linux computer, you already have one. If you're using Windows, you're going to have to install one. Popular selections for Windows are PuTTY or Cygwin. So anyway, go ahead and install one first. The other thing you'll need is a VNC client. Free versions are also available on the internet. You will need one if you want to be able to connect using a graphic interface. Well, anyway, what we're going to do is, once we've installed our SSH client, we need to get our SSH credentials, which we downloaded in our previous example. So here what I'm showing you is how I'm copying them from the download folder, which is where Firefox keeps them for me, and I put them on my .ssh folder, which once you install an SSH client you should have. After I copy the credentials, in my case I actually need to change the permissions to make sure that I'm the only one that can read them, because otherwise my SSH client doesn't work. So that's exactly what I'm doing now. You can see now it's read-only. Now after I've done that, I can actually connect to my server, which is what I'm doing now. I'm saying SSH, but instead of throwing a user and password combination, I'm telling it to use my basic certificate, which I downloaded. I'm also specifying that I'm going to connect as Ubuntu, which is the default user, and finally I'm setting a tunnel for sending graphical UI information. So that will let me create a VNC server, which is a remote desktop server on the Amazon side, and then connect with a client on my computer. So you can see now we have logged into the remote server, and we have a terminal, which is fine, but it's much nicer to work if you have a UI. So to start a UI, what we need to do is we need to start the VNC server. We describe the size of the screen by providing a geometry attribute, and then we specify which monitor we want to start. You can actually have multiple VNC servers running at the same time. After we've done that, we can then initialize our VNC client. In my case I'm using real VNC, but there are a few other ones that you can use. So we specify that we want to connect to the local part of the tunnel that we set with SSH. That was in 19002, and we need to specify a password. By default, the password that we're using in this IMI is S as in Sam, P as in Peter, 2014. And once you do that, you get this nice graphic interface. By default, what we're going to get is KDE. And there's a few other nice goodies installed in the provided AMI. One of them is Eclipse, and now I'm going to show you how we actually bring Eclipse by just typing Eclipse. And Eclipse has been pre-installed also with the full Android SDK. So in a quick moment I'll show you how we can actually start the emulator which you'll use for one of your projects. So if you are in the Java perspective of Eclipse, all you need to do is go to Window, and then you'll see that you can actually manage the emulator, and there will be an existing emulator predefined for you that simulates an Nexus 4. You can create different phones and tablets. There are a few SDKs preloaded, but not all of them. You can always install more SDKs if you want to emulate a device that's not supported. The emulator will take some time to start. This can be a few minutes, but once it does, you can basically unlock the emulator and start the browser. You can connect from this browser to the local version of Apache that your Amazon instance is running. The issue is that if you try to connect to localhost or 127, that, as it turns out, is the emulator itself. So we have to use a little trick to connect to the Amazon instance, and from the point of view of the emulator, we do that by connecting to 10.0.2.2, which stands for localhost.